Going right, throws the pass on the other. It's caught! It's caught! It's caught! Touchdown FSU! Calvin Benjamin. Knowles retake the lead with 13 seconds remaining.
Tagovailoa trying to make up for it. Fires to the end zone. Touchdown! Alabama wins!
And welcome back to another episode of The Lateral Live. I am Mike Settle, and that, of course, as always, is Dustin Franklin. Dustin, we have a sneaky Saturday this week, I feel. Not good, not bad, sneaky stuff. But first things first, buddy, how you doing?
Yeah, man, I'm doing good. I'm 3-2 so far on the week. NC State squeaked one out this week. Utah rose to the occasion without rising, pun intended. And FIU got it done last night in overtime, but Louisiana and BYU have let me down so far this season. So I'm excited to see how I bounce back today.
Yeah, I felt good about my ECU pick there. Something ECU did really well last night is run the football on BYU, which kind of shocked me. I felt like they were the better team in the trenches for most of the game. I mean, really good game, close win. But to go on the road in Provo, I know that BYU team is banged up. That's a really good win for the Pirates and Mike Houston.
Yeah, it was. And also BYU, if they appear on this show the rest of the way, I'm going to have a hard time picking them, though.
Yeah, man.
It's just they don't make anything comfortable.
If you really want to know something crazy, ECU's 3 kicks away from being a one-loss football team easily.
Yeah.
And that's playing a few games without their starting quarterback. So that could be an interesting team in the American. I don't think they have a shot to win their division, but they got a shot to go, 9-3? I mean, it's not like they can't beat Cincinnati, not like they can't beat. I mean, they already drubbed UCF, so it's a very interesting team in the American going forward. I didn't stay awake for Utah-Washington State because that was a Thursday night, and I get up at 5 a.m. every day. So that wasn't going to work. But I saw, some of the other Thursday games. That NC State-Virginia Tech game needs to get on down the road. I never need to watch that football game. Those two teams assemble again. That was brutal football. The fact that NC State was able to pull that out kind of makes me mad as a Florida State fan, because that lets me know we let that stupid game slip away. That pisses me off so much.
Yeah.
Dustin, anything else on Thursday and Friday games? I feel like we previewed them, and you had a pretty good, 2-day thing, but I feel a lot better about my ECU pick now that I saw the game play out the way it did.
Yeah, NC State. I mean, I preseason picked them to have their first ever 10-win season in school history. They're not going to get there. I mean, without Devin Leary, they're just simply not going to get there. I thought Utah showed a lot of heart.
Me too.
Without their stud quarterback, Cam Rising's damn good, and without him, they showed a lot of heart to go out and get that gritty win without him. That's all I really got. I mean, I felt like a real sicko every time I turned on the FIU game last night, but we love sicko games.
Well, you say that, but buddy, FIU's 4-4. I mean, they beat Louisiana Tech. I know that Sonny Cumbie, that's his first year there, and we kind of expect him to maybe get it rolling, but we always knew it was going to be a rebuild. But to lose to that FIU team, Mike McIntyre's got that thing kind of rolling a little bit, man.
He does, and I don't think I don't even think he expected it this early.
How in the hell did how has he pulled this off? And I mean, I know they had some transfer portal people that we kind of dismissed in the offseason as well. If they're going to FIU, they can't be that good. Man, they've solved some solutions there. They're an interesting team on the defensive line. Now, the rest of their defense is not that great, but their defensive line got some pretty good talent on some South Florida guys. So very interesting stuff from Thursday and Friday. Let's move on over to some news and notes that we have. Hate to start it on such a sour note, but former Georgia coach, legendary coach, Vince Dooley, dead yesterday at age 90. Long life lived. Got to see Georgia win a national championship again in his lifetime. I know that made him happy. So I'm glad he got to kind of live through that and see that in person, since he was the coach of the last time the Georgia Bulldogs won the national championship. So really legendary guy in college football. Did a lot to propel the Georgia program forward. Any thoughts on Vince Dooley?
Yeah, thoughts and prayers go out to the family. It's, he obviously a legendary coach. And then I got to hear a lot of stories about Vince when his son Derek was the head coach at Tennessee. Just the radio station talked about Vince a lot, and his wife Barb would call in. I think her name was Barb. She would call in. Yeah, she would call in the radio station a lot. And so thoughts and prayers to Derek Dooley, senior analyst at Alabama now on the defensive side.
Of course he is. Of course
he is. Well, he's a Saban guy. So
no, I know.
always thought that he would go back there. But yeah, just it's never easy to lose a loved one. So thoughts and prayers to their whole family.
Absolutely. I agree. Man, Vince Dooley had a hell of a career, an interesting career in the SEC. He'll be missed. That's for sure. Okay. Hugh Freeze. Buddy, we've been talking about Hugh Freeze for this job and that job and every job. An 8-year extension at Liberty. I know they just beat the bejesus out of BYU last week, but he's decided to kind of stay put. I found that interesting. I know they're going to Conference USA here and starting next year, so they're in a conference. Not a very good conference. We'll talk about that another time in the offseason. But going to a conference, they have aspirations for an even bigger conference after that. Maybe Hugh has a vision at Liberty and he's in lockstep with the AD. You know how I feel about Liberty, but that doesn't take anything away from the success that he's had there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, I always like Hugh Freeze. I know that there was the shady stuff when he was at Ole Miss with the alleged use of burner phones to buy hookers for prospect, whatever you want to call it. But he's I always liked his story. He was a Ole Miss guy through and through. That was his dream job. He got a chance. It didn't work out. And so I was always curious how he would shake out. And I'm happy he's having success at Liberty. But
I'm glad he's not Louisville.
Yeah, same. But when you say he's decided to stay put, I mean, good on Liberty. Good on Liberty. But if the right team wants Hugh Freeze, they're still going to get Hugh Freeze.
I didn't look at the terms and
it's 8 years, $40 million.
Well, what's the
guaranteed.
buyout? I said, I don't care about that. What's the buyout? Okay. Liberty's a private school. They don't have to release that information. Yeah. So I understand not releasing. But it can't.
Here, I just found something. It says the buyout and Freeze's new contract with Liberty isn't big enough to prevent him to prevent potential suitors from pursuing him. So it's a good gesture by Liberty. Like, hey, Hugh, we want you to stay. And Hugh's like, yeah, I want to be here, but I still think Auburn could prime away even right now if they wanted to.
I don't know, but Hugh's personal values outside of trying to get a hooker for Mons Venus, Hugh's personal values now seem to kind of be in lockstep with Liberty's as a university. So, I mean, maybe he just kind of likes the fit. I doubt it. Like, I don't see that lasting forever. Eventually, an SEC team will come calling. Buddy, it may not be the SEC team he wants, but if you're Missouri, somebody like that, maybe lower tier SEC, wouldn't it be hilarious if Mike Leach decided to call it quits? Do it, Hugh. Do it. Could you imagine Hugh Freeze at Mississippi State? Oh, man.
Yeah, I don't think he'd do it. He's an Oxford guy. But and if I'm him, if Missouri called me, I'd screen those phone calls. I wouldn't even answer the phone. I'd just stay at Liberty.
Yeah, because when the SEC in the next 5 to 6 years, when the SEC looks a little bit different, I'm not just talking Oklahoma and Texas. We have an idea of a few other teams that could be headed to the SEC. Missouri may get the nice thanks but no thanks letter. I mean, they absolutely could. I doubt it, but they could. But if not, if I'm Missouri, Hugh Freeze seems like a pretty good fit. We're talking out of turn here. For now, he signed an extension with Liberty, and that was newsworthy to me because we have him up for every job in America. And I don't know if he's going to get one of those, but I found that interesting. Really quick, Adrian Martinez, quarterback at Kansas State, who we kind of crapped on in the offseason, but has kind of shut us up here as the season has gone on for Kansas State. Looks like he's a game-time decision. Got hurt in the game last week against TCU. Started Skylar Howard, by the way, their backup. He's also questionable. I think they'd be fine against Oklahoma State with Skylar Howard, who seemed to play pretty well against TCU last week. But if they get Adrian Martinez, that's a game I'm really excited to watch.
Yeah, it's going to come down to can he play or can't he play. And I never thought that I would say that a team's chances of victory hinges on whether he can play. but good on him for proving me wrong.
Oh, it absolutely matters 100% who the quarterback is for that Kansas State offense. That's for sure. Last thing we really have, excuse me, not the last thing we have, because I I sent you something yesterday that got lost in the shuffle. Temple head coach Stan Drayton will miss Saturday's game at Navy due to a viral infection that's kept him out all week. So Everett Withers used to be the head coach at James Madison, and then Texas State will get the interim head coaching duties for the week. I just thought that was noteworthy because I know I've had some people disagree with me, but I think Stan Drayton has that thing going the right direction at Temple right now.
Yeah, I think so too. Now I'm not going to turn this TV on because Navy is playing some disgusting football this season, but still never liked anyone to miss time due to illness or anything else. So thoughts and prayers to Stan Drayton as well, wishing him a speedy recovery. And I just found it interesting that Temple has a chief of staff. That's a hell of a title for Everett Withers.
How did Everett Withers get that title?
But Florida State's got a deputy, so.
Yeah, they do. They've got, Florida State has some weird titles. Florida's got some weird titles. I'm like, there's too many cooks in this kitchen to me. But, man, staffs have just gotten out of hand and huge, man. Thanks a lot, Nick. I appreciate that. Last thing, a slight disagreement we have. Florida State Twitter puts out their uniform they're rocking today. They're going with the white helmet, which we agree on, that we love. Chrome face mask looks sick. They're going with the garnet pants. I love it. You think they should have gone with the white pants. This isn't really that newsworthy, but we just like to banter back and forth about uniforms sometimes. I love the combo, but I understand the white pants argument.
Yeah, it's just, the white helmet just seems like I don't know. Maybe I'm just thinking of it from a traditional standpoint. I think the gold helmet would look better with this combo. And if you go white pants with red and garnet in the middle, that's going to look better. I don't know.
Well, first of all, I love the garnet on garnet, so you could put a brown helmet on them sons of bitches, and it wouldn't bother me.
Well, the biggest thing to take away here is they finally listened to the people on Twitter, and they put the chrome garnet face mask on instead of the white ones. The white ones didn't look good.
No.
So nice face mask edition this year.
I said this is the best. This is the best version of that helmet that there can be. Rumors that there's a black helmet out there. Rumors, like a traditional black helmet, not that two-tone Jacksonville Jaguars piece of crap that they were trying to do for a couple years. I'm talking about a real black helmet. If you're gonna have a black uniform, just get a black helmet, because the way that they were doing it before looked like crap. And don't put the flat gold spear on it either. Do something not that. I don't know what, but do something not that. Dustin, anything else for news and notes before we get into today's games, man?
Let's get into these games, man.
I said, let's break these down here. Speaking of Florida State, 12 o'clock, ACC Network, Florida State, Georgia Tech. Florida State hosting the Yellow Jackets as a 24-point favorite. You could find this earlier in the week as a 23.5. There was a 24.5. Looks like it kind of got down there in the middle. This is a lot of points. I fully expect after a bye week, Florida State to come out, play with the hair on fire, be able to run the football, get back to doing that with success. Because look, they had success running the ball against Clemson. I mean, we saw it. Just traditional inside zone, outside zone, stretch plays. Like, we saw them do it against Clemson's defensive line. Offensive line's as healthy as it's been since about week 2. That's good. I fully expect the running back situation to be fine with Trey Benson, Lawrence Toafili. I expect them to run the ball, not rely so much on Jordan in that passing game. I like the Noles to win. 24 points is a lot. I think Noles by about 20, 17-20.
Yeah, I mean, FSU at home coming off a bye. Georgia Tech most likely without their starting quarterback, Jeff Sims. Still no official word on that. But Fabian Lovett probably going to play on the defensive line. That's big news for Knowles. I think you agree. I would rest him, give him another week to get healthy. But if he plays, that's just even more bad news for Georgia Tech. I like FSU to win this one, but I'm not confident enough to say they covered 24 points. That's just a lot of points.
That's a lot.
I can see them win about 21 easily. Yeah. Now, I could also see them win about 35.
Yeah,
because this Georgia Tech team's not very good, and they playing with the interim head coach. But I wouldn't put money on it. So give me FSU comfortably.
This result worried me a little bit. Watching Georgia Tech for a few weeks kind of play inspired football with the interim head coach, but that Virginia game last week just made me go, nah, that ain't happening. So I like the Noles to win comfortably, but maybe not cover. Arkansas, Auburn, SEC Network. Arkansas is a 3.5-point favorite, Dustin.
Yeah. The last 4 games for Arkansas that they've played after a bye, all Arkansas wins. I like that to continue. Also, take the over. The over is hit in 5 of 7 Arkansas games and has hit 7 of the last 8 times these two teams have played. So give me Arkansas and give me the over.
Okay. I told you this morning I had some surprising picks, and boy, do I. I like the Tigers in this spot. I know Arkansas is coming off of a bye, but Auburn has found something on the ground with their running game, and they're able to use play action off of that. I like the over 2, but I don't think that Auburn defense is as bad as it's played in certain spots. They just played some pretty damn good offenses in that stretch. They kind of made Ole Miss look human for a few quarters a couple weeks ago. I like that Arkansas offense, but this just feels like an Auburn team, and we've talked about it before. It feels like an Auburn team that has nothing to lose. They're going to jump up and bite someone. I don't know who it is, but they're gonna jump up and bite someone, and I think it could be Arkansas today. I like Brian Harsin to get a win, and that's probably going to frustrate the Auburn fan base.
Yeah, I can see it.
Well, there's a reason the line is 3.5. I mean, it's
Right.
not like some big time upset, but something about the way that Auburn has really played hard every week. There's no quit in the players in that locker room, at least in my opinion. Oklahoma. I almost said Ohio State. That'd be ugly. Oklahoma, Iowa State, FS1. Oklahoma is a 1.5-point favorite.
Yeah, Iowa State. They're 3-4 on the season, but their 4 losses are by a combined 14 points.
Yeah,
their defense is good, but the OU offense is just a little bit different with Dylan Gabriel. They're electric. So I like Oklahoma to get the win by a touchdown.
I agree with you because of Dylan Gabriel being healthy, him being inserted back into the lineup. I like that Sooners offense, man. I love the way they spread you out. They remind me a lot of Tennessee when they have the right quarterback. When they don't, they look ugly. Here's what I say about Iowa State. They make me mad every week because every single week they almost win and then they don't because that defense is really good. That offense is almost putrid. However, that Oklahoma defense, buddy, they're not any good. So I expect Iowa State to be able to score some points today. So that's why I think it's close like you. I think Oklahoma by around 6 or 7. Interesting game in the Big 12. Boy, PSA every week until the end of the season. If you're not interested in this Big 12 race, you don't love college football. You don't, because this race is fantastic. It's going to come down to the final week of the season to determine who gets into that Big 12 championship game. I know we counted Oklahoma out, but buddy, not fully, not totally out of it, especially since Texas keeps kind of sputtering around a little bit. Well, anyway, okay. Let's go to 2 o'clock. Southern, Jackson State, ESPN3. There wasn't a line available, and this is where College Game Day is this week, which shout out to College Game Day for going and visiting Dion and the boys.
Yeah, it's unfortunate Corso not there this week, had some health issues, so thoughts and prayers to Lee Corso. Would have been great to see him on campus with another Florida State legend, Deion Sanders. Boombox Classic, as it's often called. Give me Jackson State, man. Shedeur Sanders, he's a stud at quarterback. I just think that Jackson State team has too much talent. They're rolling right now. I like them to stay unbeaten.
I agree with you. I like Jackson State to win pretty big on the arms and legs of Shedeur Sanders. Here's the thing. Southern has maybe the best uniforms in FCS football. I mean, they are just absolutely beautiful, but none of that matters today because I fully expect the Tigers to win this game at home. Man, what a big-time day for them, though, to get game day, to get the national spotlight. I think
that's huge.
Big-time deserved for HBCU football. All right. Normally this would be on the in-depth games, but I'm glad you put it here because I think I have a sneaking suspicion it may not be that interesting. 3:30, Florida taking on number 1, Georgia in Jacksonville, neutral site game. The world's largest outdoor cocktail party. Don't let anybody tell you anything different. On CBS, Georgia is a 22.5-point favorite, Dustin.
Yeah. First of all, that's what it's called. And Texas, Oklahoma is the Red River Shootout.
That's right, buddy.
And Oregon State
It's a civil war.
is civil war.
Well,
Stop it.
Stop.
There's nothing offensive about any of those.
No.
God. Anyway, 22 and a half. That's a lot of points here, man. That's too many. Georgia rolls and remains unbeaten, but I like Florida to cover. They'll be up. It's a rivalry game, and I think that I just have this weird feeling that Georgia makes it uncomfortable early on. Or
Yes.
I'm sorry, Florida makes it uncomfortable early on.
Yes.
So I don't see them covering the 22 and a half.
I like Florida's offense to score some points in this spot because we've talked about the Georgia defense on this show. They're good, but they're leaky occasionally. And I like Anthony Richardson in that offense to be able to move the football, especially early on in the game when the excitement's up, the hype's up. Florida's coming off a bye week, both teams off a bye week, if I'm not mistaken. So I like this game to be close early, and then I think Georgia kind of puts the clamps down and pulls away. My only concern with Georgia is a little bit of a look ahead. I know it's a rivalry. I know it's Florida, but Florida's, 4-3 on the season, and Georgia's got a pretty big game next week. Don't know if you've heard about it, that they could be looking ahead to for all the marbles in the division. So if I'm Georgia, maybe there's a little bit of a look ahead sandwich here. I just don't think Florida's good enough to capitalize on that, especially on defense, where right now they're not stopping anybody, Dustin.
Mm-hmm.
They've just letting everybody run free. So I think the four-headed monster at tight end, and they're able to run the ball on the ground. I like the Bulldogs to win, but I don't like 22 and a half unless it's some late backdoor cover because Kirby wants to prove a point in the state of Florida with, recruits looking on, which now recruits can come to this game as an official visit. That's a new rule that got reinstated this year, which I like, by the way.
Yeah.
All right. Cincinnati, UCF, ESPN. This is 3:30. UCF, a 1.5-point favorite. This line shocked me a little bit.
Me too. Because which UCF team is going to show up? They dropped 70 on Temple, and then they follow that up with 13 points in a loss against ECU. Meanwhile, Cincinnati is consistent at one thing, winning.
Yes.
So give me the Bearcats on the road.
I do think a loss for the Bearcats is coming in conference, but it's not this game. I don't like what UCF is doing on offense right now. Look, I like John Rice Plumlee. He's a pretty good player, but every time Gus does this thing where he insists on trying to throw the ball where he doesn't have to. I don't know what that's about. When his best offense is, if you remember 2013, which I know you do, that offense was really good with Nick Marshall when he kind of created something out of nothing. They ran the ball, and then Nick Marshall would pop off a 78-yard pass down the field using play action or rolling out and escaping the pocket. They're not really doing that with Rice Plumlee, which I don't quite understand. But also, Nick Marshall had a better arm than Plumlee. I think that's pretty easy to see, or at least in my opinion. They need to get back to establishing the run. They need to be able to run the football here.
For sure.
They've got 3-4 running backs that they can use in that stable. And that Cincinnati defense has played down to level competition this year. But I think this is a game they'll get excited for. Big-time rivalry as both teams transfer over to the Big 12 next season together. So last time playing in the American Athletic Conference against each other, I like the Bearcats. But I think UCF has a chance to keep it interesting, especially early on, just because I think they'll get up and they'll play for this game. This is kind of their season, if you will.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
But Bearcats, look out for that Pirates team in a couple weeks. Just saying, that's going to be a fun game in the American. Speaking of fun games, the most fun conference in the country. 7:30, Baylor, Texas Tech, ESPN2. Texas Tech's a 2.5-point favorite. I'm going to go first real quick. I don't even need to discuss this game, Dustin. Give me Joe McGuire. Wreck him, baby. Let's go.
Listen, if you listen to our weekly show, when we did the Power Poll segment, I can't go against Joey McGuire here after I just sang his praises there. So give me the Red Raiders to win. Bonus, though, give me the over. It's hit 5 of 7 games for each team this season. Yeah. And 4 straight Baylor games the over's hit. So the over is the play. Give me Texas Tech.
Well, Baylor almost like Kansas sneaked back in last week. After, putting the beat down on them, they called the dogs off, which I don't understand because it's not like Kansas can't score points. They can score points. So I don't know what that was about. And that made me kind of go, I don't know about this Baylor team, but I do know that this Texas Tech team is fun no matter what happens in the game result. Like, they are a fun team to watch play every week. So I will have my eye on that. Although I'm not going to lie, where my eyes will be on Fox at 8:03 when the first pitch is thrown out. But I got secondary TVs, baby. That's what it's all about. 8 o'clock, Pitt, North Carolina, ACC Network. North Carolina is a 3-point favorite. Buddy, I like North Carolina by a lot more.
Yeah, same, man. Drake May is a first-round quarterback, and he's going to play like it today. He's going to light it up. Pitt's offense is just too slow and calculated to keep up. Give me the Tar Heels by 14+.
Well, what did I tell you in the offseason about Pat Narduzzi? Remember when you pushed back on me? My dad pushed back on me. I'm sure he's watching. He's fine, blah, blah, blah. No, he was spouting off at the mouth because he finally won something. And then he decided to go away from the one thing that made him successful, which was the offense they were running with Mark Whipple. Now, maybe they didn't get along personally. That's fine. But you could go get a different offensive coordinator that doesn't run this 1930s throwback offense. That may be what you like as a defensive guy, but it's the reason you're losing these games. I think this is a total mismatch, and that stinks because I don't think the Pitt defense is that bad, but I really like that North Carolina offense. If you would have told me in the preseason this North Carolina team was going to be playing for the ACC championship, which let's start accepting that fact. They're going to play for the ACC championship as the Coastal representative. I would have kicked you in the face, but here we are. We're staring at it, and I think North Carolina gets a big one today. And I think, man, you're right. Drake, I have to say it every week. Drake May, first-round draft pick, and future Heisman winner, ?
No, let's not get carried away, but well, maybe. I mean, he is playing with a legendary head coach, so we'll see.
Oh, man, don't do that to me. Don't. Max looking rough, buddy. I got to say it every week. Max
How many losses
rough.
they got this season?
Hey, but for whatever reason, he can't beat Mike Norvell. Weird how that happens. All right, let's talk about some of these bigger games of the day. 12 o'clock, Ohio State, Penn State, Fox. Ohio State's a 15.5-point favorite. This is a fun game, man. I know we saw Penn State, Michigan last week. I'm going to give you a chance here in just a second. This is not a whiteout, but it is a stripe out in Happy Valley. Big noon kickoff for the Nittany Lions and the Buckeyes.
Yeah, Michigan exposed a few things with this Penn State defense last week. So can they bounce back? Ohio State, I mean, they're the most complete team in the country, in my opinion. C.J. Stroud, he still has the best odds for the Heisman, even though I've made my opinion well known who I think deserves the Heisman. We'll get to that later. But this is going to be a tall task for the Nittany Lions. Here's some stats for you. Under James Franklin, Penn State is just 4-5 at home against the spread. That doesn't bode well for Penn State. Even though Sean Clifford has played well this season, I think the offense will have trouble scoring. I do think the defense can keep it close in the first half, but I like the Buckeyes to win and pull away late.
You mentioned Michigan exposing Penn State a couple weeks ago, and you're not wrong. But this is a different matchup, and styles make fights. You talked about the history here. The biggest loss that James Franklin has taken from Ohio State is 14 points. All these other games that he played against him has been close. So I find that interesting as well.
I misspoke. I said they're only 4-5 at home under James Franklin. What I meant was as underdogs.
Right.
So they're 4-5 against the spread as underdogs.
Yeah. Here's the thing. I like that Penn State defense. I know they gave up a lot of yards on the ground to Michigan, but that Michigan ground game is really good. That's not really what Ohio State does, even though that's what they tried to do early on in the season, but I think they had to get away from it and put it on the arm of C.J. Stroud. I saw some things against Iowa last week that I didn't like from this Ohio State offense, and I know that Iowa defense is good. Don't get me started on Kirk Ferentz again because I will burst a blood vessel in my eye, but I saw some things last week that Iowa was able to do that made me go, if Penn State can replicate this, that Ohio State defense is just okay. Like, I don't think it's great. You said they're the most complete team. I agree with you, but I don't think their defense is quite up to their offense just yet. Now, we love Jim Knowles, and they're significantly improved on that side of the ball. But I think with the way the Penn State offense is able to move the ball on the ground, Sean Clifford's playing well enough. I like Ohio State to win, but I think it's a really close game, much closer than people think it's going to be. It's at home. I know it's not a night game, but Happy Valley will be rocking. They'll be excited. It'll be loud. It'll be cold. And the kind of play that Penn State does, that physical, more smash mouth stuff, that bodes well for the weather they're going to get there today. So I think it's a really good, interesting football game, which, by the way, I've been looking for from these Big Ten noon kickoffs on Fox for the last 6 weeks that have been just terrible, Dustin. They really haven't picked well. I think they picked well this week. I like this football game. Ohio State wins but doesn't cover.
Okay.
Sneaky game here. TCU, West Virginia, ESPN. TCU only a 7.5-point favorite. I found that interesting, but I think I understand why.
Yeah, I don't understand the line, honestly. TCU's offense just too good. They're third in the nation in total yards, third in the nation in scoring, and they take care of the ball. They've only got 4 turnovers on the year. They're undefeated for a reason. West Virginia's defense is also trending downward. They've given up almost 600 yards each of the last 2 games against Baylor and Texas Tech, and they're last in the conference in total defense now. So I like TCU comfortably today.
I like TCU to win this game. I just want to say that outright. But there's a couple things working in West Virginia's favor. One, TCU has a horseshoe up its ass this year. We know that. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. We're excited that there's an undefeated TCU football team in the college football playoff discussion. And by the way, sidebar, have you not noticed there's a little bit less quote-unquote playoff talk this season from national heads? I like that. This sport has more to offer than just who the 4 best teams are at the end. There's so much that needs to unfold for us to even get to that point. So I really like that. But back on track here, West Virginia's at home with nothing to lose. Their defense is bad, but I don't think their offense is bad when they protect the football. Looking at you, JT Daniels, you can't sit here and throw interceptions to this TCU team because they will make points out of that. There were some things last week that concerned me with TCU on offense in that first half. I just thought they kind of weren't in rhythm, weren't in motion. This is a sleepy game to me. So I like TCU to win. I like them to cover, but barely. I think maybe 7-10, something like that. I think West Virginia at home can keep it interesting for a little while. And maybe I'm just hoping for a good game so I'm not bored in the noon slate because I think Florida State may win comfortably. Hopefully. Fingers crossed. All right, Dustin. I wonder where we're going to go on this. I'm excited to talk about this game. Notre Dame, Syracuse, ABC. Syracuse, a 2.5-point favorite. By the way, this is at noon as well. Interesting game to have on the ABC kind of noon game of the week. Syracuse, only a 2.5-point favorite.
Yeah. Cuse fought hard last week, man. They had a chance to remain unbeaten, but they always seem to play Clemson tough. I mean, if you remember a few years ago, was it 4 years ago, they pulled the shocker in the Carrier Dome and beat Clemson when nobody thought they had a shot. This Cuse team is 6-1 this season against the spread. Notre Dame is 2-0 against the spread as dogs. But here's the thing. Syracuse's run defense is going to be the key. They gave up almost 300 yards on the ground to Clemson. I just don't think that Notre Dame has the offense to take advantage of that. They haven't shown they have. So even though I have a strong feeling this is probably going to come back to bite me, give me the orange close. Everything has been telling me all week, take Notre Dame, take Notre Dame, take Notre Dame. But when I was looking into it, I just can't find a reason to take Notre Dame other than brand recognition.
To quote the GOAT, not so fast, my friend. Okay. All week, my gut told me to ignore this game and not even pay attention to it and just take Cuse. But that second half performance against Clemson last week caused for pause. And Clemson is much better than Notre Dame. I understand that. However, Notre Dame does run the ball well when they're not apparently when they're not playing Stanford or Marshall, they run the ball well. Now, I think that North Carolina game kind of skews the numbers a little bit because they just did whatever they wanted on offense in that game. They still have Michael Mayer on offense as well at tight end. So they got to find a way to get him the ball and use him as a weapon. I'm not in love with the Syracuse offense, though. I'm really not. And while that Notre Dame defense isn't like great, it's not bad either. And for whatever reason, they've gotten away from giving Sean Tucker his carries. And I think Notre Dame is able to stop the run today. So they're going to be able to, or they're going to have to rely on Garrett Schrader to throw the ball around a lot. And I just don't think he can. So this is it's not that I don't like Cuse, but this is a bad matchup to me for strength on strength. Like, I think the Notre Dame defense is what carries them today. I like Notre Dame to not only cover, but win outright. And I may end up eating my words too. That's why the line's only 2.5, by the way. Interesting game there. This will kind of show me what Syracuse is. You know, if they come out here and they let Clemson beat them twice, then I know what they are. If they get a win today, I think we have to take them a little more seriously than even we were prior to the Clemson game.
Yeah, I can see that. It's just when you actually look into it, though, Notre Dame's defense, everyone, like, it was easy to say that's going to be the strength, but they haven't actually been that good this season.
No.
So it's going to be tricky. I think Sean Tucker is going to be pleased.
Well, if they give him the ball and use him correctly, then yeah, he probably will be pleased. But as much as I like Robert and they need to kind of maybe get back to some of that stuff that was working last year, which was giving him the football a million times. And then when you're least expecting it, throwing it to one of your Canadian receivers because you got two of them. So anyway, all right, 3:30, Oklahoma State, Kansas State on Fox. Kansas State, a 1.5-point favorite. Line was interesting to me. I think this is a decent line if Adrian Martinez plays. Even if Skylar Howard plays, I think we're somewhere in the middle there. I'll throw it to you first, but I think wrong team's favored.
Yeah, I do too. No, Adrian Martinez makes this one less interesting also. So if he doesn't play, I don't think that this one is going to go the way of the Wildcat at all. Oklahoma State's a good team, man. I just don't trust Howard to do enough if he starts. I don't trust him to do enough on offense to keep Kansas State in it against a good Derek Mason-led defense. Now, here's the thing. Spencer Sanders, he's going to have to get the ball going. He's going to take care of the ball, complete more than 50% of his passes. The key to Kansas State, or the key to beating Oklahoma State, I should say, is passing the ball. The defense for Oklahoma State gives up a Big 12 worst 304 yards per game.
Right.
But even with Adrian Martinez in the game, that's not their identity. That's not what Kansas State does well. He runs the ball well and opens up some underneath stuff and some play action stuff, but he's not going to just light it up through the air. So for that reason, I just think it's a bad matchup for Kansas State. Give me the Oklahoma State by 2 scores.
I will say that the Kansas State passing game surprised me last week in the first half because their receivers are making contested catches on TCU. I was like, well, what the hell? Where's this been? You know, like against Tulane and everybody else. I'm like, what have you been doing? You've been holding on to this. But I guess that could have just been like a kind of catch them off guard thing early. I don't think you're going to catch Derek Mason off guard here. I understand thinking Oklahoma State is about to run out of juice, especially since they got up, had to come back and beat Texas last week. Big time win, emotion, at an all-time high. Is this a letdown spot? But I have my trust in Mike Gundy and that staff to have this team focus because Dustin, everything they want to do is still in front of them. If their only loss on the season ends up being TCU, then they get to avenge that loss in the Big 12 championship game. They're in the playoff conversation. Absolutely. So everything they want to do is still in front of them. I think Mike Gundy will keep that team focused. I like this Kansas State team and that staff, but if Adrian Martinez isn't playing, I don't think that offense runs near as smooth, and I don't think they have the passing ability to take advantage of Oklahoma State's weakness. I like the Cowboys to win and win pretty comfortably. Mm-hmm. All right. I'm going to skip ahead and then come back to what I think is the game of the week. But here's another one, 7:30, SEC Network, number 15, Ole Miss against Texas A&M. Ole Miss going on the road. Mississippi is a 2.5-point favorite. Okay, I'm going to go first just one time. This is a weird spot for Ole Miss to me. Now, we could have spent, me and you, we could have spent 30 minutes at the top of the show talking about the problems at Texas A&M. Why? Because we've seen this movie before. We've seen it with Jimbo Fisher. We know the roller coaster ride that program and its fan base is going on. We understand. You have people smoking weed in the locker room before the South Carolina game, suspensions galore, people transferring, only one punter. But still, he's a 4-year guy and he's in the transfer portal. So interesting times at Texas A&M. Everybody's on Jimbo's head. Everybody wants him fired. I got it. Guess what? Not going to happen. A lot of money involved, a lot of politics involved. Ole Miss is coming off a loss where I think they got exposed, especially on defense, where I think I had some question marks after the Auburn game. Those ended up being true after seeing them play LSU last week. So this is an interesting spot to now go on the road back-to-back weeks. I think that's also interesting for Ole Miss. Look, I like that Ole Miss offense, but you know what else I like, Dustin? The Texas A&M defense. A lot, actually. And they're going to be a little bit healthier than they have been on defense. This is the DJ Durkin Bowl, which is weird to me. Really. But, I hate that A&M offense. With every fiber of my being, I hate that A&M offense. But if Connor Wegman is healthy and plays, I think the kid has a little something to him that the other two hadn't shown all year. By the way, South Carolina won that game last week, but we talked about it in our review. Buddy, South Carolina didn't do anything on offense. Anything. They were dreadful and somehow still found a way to win that game. I think the Ole Miss defense is in a leaky spot here. I can't believe I'm saying it. Give me Jimbo. Give me the Aggies. And an upset back against the wall. These are the kind of games I like Jimbo Fisher in. I like Jimbo and the A&M Aggies to get a win at home today where you could go for a low fee of $5 if you wanted to.
$2, actually.
Yeah, it's up to $5. I saw it.
Oh,
it's up to $5. Yeah.
Yeah, a couple days ago, you could have got tickets for $2, which that has to make the Texas A&M boosters feel real good. Ole Miss needs a bounce back, man. I did find it entertaining earlier in the week. We got a quote from Lane Kiffin came out. They wanted to retain DJ Durkin, but Texas A&M outbid them, and he said, that seems to be the case a lot these days. So,
hey, don't like that stuff. Him and Lane hate each other. By the way, that's not good times.
I love that. Playoff aspirations for Ole Miss, no matter how slim they may have been, they were dashed last week, but their season isn't over. You can't just pack it up and go home now. A lot of good football to play for. You still have a lot of attainable goals to achieve. Enter Texas A&M, who also needs to bounce back. You can't go 2 games under 500 with the billion-dollar head coach Jimbo Fisher here. This one's interesting.
Yes, very interesting game.
Neither team is good against the spread this season. A&M is 3-4. Ole Miss is 3-5. A&M is 102nd in the nation against the run, though. If you exclude the service academies, so if you take out Army, Navy, and Air Force, Ole Miss is 3rd in the nation on offense running the ball. So for that reason,
that's fair.
Give me Ole Miss. I like Judkins. He's going to run wild today. Here's the thing also, though. Whether you take Ole Miss or you take Texas A&M, give me the under.
Yeah,
it's hit 5 of 7 A&M games this season, and it's also hit 7 straight matchups between these two. But in the end, hotty toddy.
I see the only reason I'm taking A&M is because I see a path to score points in this game. I don't think that Ole Miss defense is bad, but I think they're leaky for lack of a better term. And we saw them against LSU last week. So I think, and I know that A&M offense is dreadful, but I see a path this week for them to score points, especially at home. This feels like a rally the troops week for Jimbo Fisher, which we've seen in the past from his teams.
Well, a big difference between this A&M team and that LSU team, though, is that this A&M team doesn't have Jaden Daniels, good college quarterback.
Oh, I agree. I've been saying it all my life. Jaden Daniels for Heisman. I've said that the whole season. I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, boy.
What happened? Something I said? Okay. Game of the week to me, 7 o'clock, Kentucky, Tennessee, ESPN, Tennessee, a 12.5-point favorite. Buddy, I'm going to let you go first, but this game is interesting.
Tennessee's rolling, man. They got playoff aspirations. I mean, they're number 3 in the country. Kentucky would love nothing more than to play spoiler. This is the battle of the beer barrel, which they haven't done that since 1998. Understandably, why they canceled that at the time, but I would be okay with bringing that one back. That's a cool thing. Will Levis, he's going to be able to do what he wants against this suspect Tennessee defense. He's going to throw the ball around. They gave up over 300 yards passing last week to UT Martin. Chris Rodriguez, he's going to be able to rip off some chunk runs. But the difference here, one team has my Heisman leader and the other doesn't. Hendon Hooker is going to throw for 300 plus. He's not going to turn the ball over. Jalen Hyatt and Brew McCoy, they're going to have a nice game receiving. Jabari Small is going to run the ball well. Give me Tennessee, and I do like them to cover the 12.5 because this game is a rivalry game. Tennessee is going to be amped up. It's at night, at home. Going to black out the uniforms, go dark mode. It's going to look awesome. I think that Tennessee's got too much buzz going for a slip up here.
I do too, but I want to just counterpoint for the hell of it, just to play devil's advocate, because we're pretty much in lockstep. However, Mark Stoops is a damn good football coach, correct? I mean, I think that's a fair take to say. Will Levis, while I don't think he's the first pick in the NFL draft like everyone else does, is a good college quarterback. I think we can make that assumption. And something that I think Kentucky likes to do that even a team like Alabama doesn't really do right now is control the clock, eat the clock. They like to control the ball with their run game, give Levis time to make slow developing passes that I think is going to at least limit Tennessee's time of possession. Not them scoring points, because we know Tennessee can score on a 75-yard pass and that just be their offense. That just be the drive. Like, it's just the two plays and they're down the field and they're in the end zone. But I think time of possession keeps this game looking closer than it actually is. Plus, I don't hate that Kentucky defense. I really don't, especially up front. I really think that the defensive line will do some interesting things at Tennessee offensive line. Now, the problem is Tennessee is one of the rare things where they don't need to be balanced. Like, we talk about offense all the time. Buddy, if they throw in 3 run plays every 10 plays, that's fine. Like, just keep everybody honest and move on down the road, because we know what's coming, and you guys can scheme people open, especially with Hyatt there now. Just, Jesus Christ, man, he's got so many weapons. Okay, so I think I agree with you, Randy Smith, who commented on our Facebook Live here. I think Tennessee wins, but I think it's closer than everyone thinks because Kentucky controls the clock, the time of possession. That's the only reason. Like, I think Tennessee's a better team. Tennessee has a much bigger game next week. That's why you cannot sleep on this Kentucky team if you're Tennessee. You have to win this one because next week it's for everything. Next week is the season. You pulled the Florida monkey off your back. You pulled the Alabama monkey off your back. Kentucky has kind of taken you to the woodshed in the last few seasons as well. So got to get that out of the way to get to next week. Don't sleep on Kentucky, but I think Tennessee is a much better football team than the Wildcats. But I like Tennessee to win, but I don't love them to cover because I think Kentucky will have the ball too often, if that makes sense. They're going to try to slow the game down, make it a lot more boring than the damn Alabama game was.
Yeah, and I think this is a perfect matchup. This is a perfect game for Tennessee. You don't want a Tennessee Martin right before Georgia. You don't want a bye week right before Georgia. You don't want a Missouri. You want a pretty damn good team that's going to challenge you right before Georgia so you can iron out anything that you need to. Yep. And Tennessee gets through this one. You're looking at most likely 2 undefeated teams. Is game day going to be on set for a 3rd Tennessee game next week? That'll be huge.
Yeah.
That one be in Georgia, obviously. But
it's in Athens, but they haven't been to Athens this year. So that's also interesting. Like, by the way, I'm not against game day going to that game because, buddy, there's a lot of big games next week. It's a play at your ass, but there's no game bigger than that one.
No, that's two top 3 teams.
That's the game of the week, 100%. And you could argue, and I won't, man, I'm stretching it here, buddy. You could argue that Kentucky is kind of Georgia light, in my opinion. Just the fact that they like to kind of control the clock, hit you in the mouth, hit you over the top with deep passes, blah, 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 and play really good sound defense. So this is a really good test for Tennessee to kind of, prepare for what Georgia wants to do. Now, that Georgia offense is way more explosive and better than the Kentucky offense is, but I think it's still a good – you're absolutely right. It's sandwiched in the perfect spot if you're a Tennessee team that's looking forward to next week. By the way, if both those teams are undefeated, that's maybe game of the year. I mean, that's looking like a all-timer in that rivalry, which is really fun to see. I mean, it's just fun to see Tennessee be relevant in college football again. It really is.
Yeah, it's just great what Josh Heupel's been able to do in such a short amount of time, and that's not a shot at anyone in particular, but it's just crazy to see. Go ahead.
It is. It is. Oh, God. All right, man.
He was right down the road, man. He was right down the road. Go ahead.
I mean, happens, man. Hey, they didn't come out in the same year, though, right?
No, Heupel's been at Tennessee less time.
I know. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Well, by the way, he wasn't doing game busters at UCF, so that would not have been like a great hire or anything.
He was doing equal to what Norvell was doing at Memphis, at least.
Norvell won the conference. Just saying. At Memphis, where Josh Heupel never won the conference.
Oh, boy.
Did I say something wrong?
All right.
Or maybe Heupel did win the conference. I don't remember because my brain is mush now. Dustin, anything else on week 9, a sneaky slate Saturday, as I like to call it?
Nah, let's go get some Hardee's. I'm going to go pick up my new glasses and then come back and watch Florida State roll.
Also, if you think the White Helmets have any bearing on how the team plays, you are a dummy. Stop it. You're an old man. Go yell at some clouds. For Mike Settle and Dustin Franklin, we'll catch you next time on Lateral Live.